Julie Beun is a publicist. She's a marketing expert. She's worked with so many events and businesses here in our community, but that all shut down in March when the pandemic really hit home. What Julie did was she decided she wanted to give back to her community in some way, and that's how she started AboutFace Masks. The thing I like most about Julie's story is she gives back to some of the most vulnerable seniors in our community.
We are in beautiful Carp to speak to Julie, who started AboutFace Masks to meet community needs. She's making fashionable and durable masks with local seamstresses. She is a great example of how community members can come together to use creative solutions to solve problems. How are you doing? How are you coping with what's going on in the city, in the country, in the world?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I was saying to a friend the other day that strong people never get asked how they're doing. And we have our down days and moments where we're crying in the shower just like everybody else. So thank you for asking. Having said that, I'm doing pretty good. I always view obstacles as opportunities. It's just how you're looking at it. And this was just another time where we had an opportunity to pause and maybe reflect and grow and figure out what our new priorities should be. And, without sounding like a complete weirdo, it's also kind of an exciting time because we're actually living in history in a way that our parents and grandparents lived through the wars and the Great Depression. And we have a chance to shape how it goes. So I think that's kind of interesting, and it's a very powerful moment that we're living through. So I started AboutFace Masks 4 days into the pandemic shutdown, so early March. I had just been to Europe, I had just been to Portugal, and I saw what was happening in January, February in Spain and Italy, and increasingly in Portugal. And so that was already in my head. And then I came back and we had the shutdown, and within those first 4 days, I got calls and emails from clients canceling projects. And, I'm a single mom, putting my kids through university and supporting myself. So I was a little panicked and anxious. And I always think, well, okay, so when you're in that headspace, it's really important to create your own bubble of positive thought. Even if no one else shares it with you, you are the master of your own happiness. I've sewn my whole life, so I got out my fabrics and I did some research into the best lining material and the best sources of everything. And I thought, I'm going to make masks. And then people started asking if I was selling them. My goal has always been to donate. But, I can't afford to do that if I have no income. So I started selling them, and that turned into a big thing in my life. And suddenly I was doing the exact thing that I had always wished I was going to do. Out of all the things that I've achieved in my life, I always wanted to have my own brand. And so I created one. About 2 weeks in, I was just working 16 hours a day, sewing, fulfilling, doing, running crazy, and trying to get access to things because everything was shut down. So try to find fabric when there's no stores open. So I got a call from a girlfriend of mine who wanted to order a mask, and she said, "Do you need any help?" And I was like, "Yes, girlfriend, sauce me some help." And she goes, "Okay, I'll design you a logo." And I was like, I was thinking sewing help, but a logo's good. Let's start with that. So we started with a logo. We started with a tagline, "Mask your face, not your style," because I've always been involved in fashion. So I really wanted this to be something that was going to go beyond the semiotics of covering your face with a surgical mask or something like that, and moving into some way of expressing yourself. Our body language is so important, and how we express ourselves, our eyes and our smile and how we hold ourselves. And if we're going to take one of those three things away, what are you going to replace it with? So I immediately thought, well, we can do this. We can make this about fashion, but still make it safe and accessible to everybody. And so that's what I did.
So actually, you talked about the tagline of AboutFace, but how did you come up with the name?
So society was asked to do an About Face in March. Just pivot and go in a different direction. We had to stop all of our normal daily activities, all our consumption, are shopping for no reason to make ourselves feel better, are going out and dining because we hate cooking or we hate being at home with our husband, or whatever the case may be, whatever thing was driving the economy, we were asked to stop doing it and do an about face, and then start to think about other people and not just ourselves. So that's where the name AboutFace Masks came. And then the tagline, mask your face, not your style, is going back to that whole idea that even though we are required to wear masks, it doesn't have to be onerous. And it's the same as doing anything that the society requires of you to keep the other person safe, to think outside of yourself. That's a big part of it, right? Like this is not hard, right? This is not offensive. You're being asked to put a face covering on. In the same way that you have a turn signal on your car to indicate to everyone around you that you are going to make a left-hand turn across traffic, to keep them and yourself safe. That's all it is. When I started this, I started sewing. I started doing it, just sewing myself and just working around the clock to get this done. And then I became aware that there were other ways of doing business, that you could scale it. I decided that everything was going to be as local as possible. So I called up a friend who has a lot of seamstresses on staff. They were all out of work. They're all migrants, and they were doing it tough. So I hired them all to start sewing, and so they're all visible minorities. So that was like actually helping 5 at one point 7 families pay their mortgage, and I hooked them up with Operation Remisier to get groceries as well in many cases. So from a local perspective, I am buying all of my products, all of my fabrics and everything from local stores. I'm hiring local people, and then I'm giving back to local organizations. So Briere Village, the Briere Clinic, which has got immigrant families and children going through for health care. More recently, I just donated masks to Ability First, for all sorts of people with ability differences, and to CHIO, and to individuals as well. So I see somebody in the street who needs a mask, I will roll down my window and say, I have them all packaged up, and I just hand them a mask. And in that way, just one small way, that maybe I can make somebody else feel a little bit more confident about the time we're living in. I sort of hopped on the internet and I researched different mask styles, and then I made prototypes, and I spent 2 days just cutting and sewing and taking things apart and thinking it all through. Again, thanks to grade 10 home ec, it really ignited a passion in me to design, and I've always designed my own clothes. And so I learned how to take clothes apart and then make patterns, like really rudimentary pattern making. I came up with 3 basic things. One is the foundation mask, which is like your jeans and t-shirt. And then you can zhuzh that up. So the foundation masks are all solid colors in Kona cotton, which is the best quality cotton you can get on the planet. And then there's the go-to mask, which is, your favorite shirt, your favorite pair of earrings, the thing that you always go to, it makes you feel fresh and alive. And then the statement mask, which is, the super glittery, fun, bold graphics, bold patterns, things that are like really sets you apart. And then within that, like I said, I've got children's masks, which are super fun, a whole range of them. And it's been really fun picking out the fabrics, I just put together a fall capsule collection, which, is so weird. And I just did a fashion shoot with Lux magazine, all about masks. So I think it was the first in Ottawa, and that's going to be coming out in the fall as well. Yes, I am optimistic for Ottawa, and for a bunch of reasons. We've had really decent leadership with Dr. Vera. She has really been a straight shooter, hasn't mixed messages. We are also a smaller city, so we understand that we're kind of like a big country town in some regards. We tend to take care of each other a little bit more, and because we're a smaller city, there's a really core of people who maybe would have been going to galas who are now fundraising for other reasons and doing things for other reasons, right? And trying to keep the giving going in Ottawa. So I am very optimistic that we will continue to be compliant, and not just compliant, but thinking about the person next to us and what we can do to make their lives better. You know, like in a great relationship, you put the other person first and they put you first, and so you both win. And I think Ottawa has got a better sense of that than some bigger cities.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of Operation Support Local. We're going to be sharing many of these stories over the coming weeks, so we'd encourage you to tune in each Friday at 7:30 p.m. and Sundays at 6 p.m. Stay safe out there, Ottawa.